start by giving you a flavour of the Foreign Affairs Council today. First of all, I am pleased to see the preliminary results coming through from Mitrovica North from the rerun of elections, which went peacefully, and we look forward to hearing properly the exact nature of the results. But this is an important part of the moving forward of Serbia and Kosovo. Our thoughts today especially turn to Libya and the deteriorating security situation there, which I've been watching all weekend and in touch with our delegation and our staff here. And that will be a part of a broader discussion that we'll have today on the southern Mediterranean, a chance to review what's happening in Egypt, to look at the situation in Iraq, and to focus on issues, for example, Syria and the countries directly affected by refugees, like Jordan, where we need to do as much as we possibly can to support them. I've no doubt as well that colleagues will want to hear more about what happened at the Iran talks, and as you know, I go back to Geneva tomorrow evening to begin the next discussions. Of course, the Eastern Partnership Summit is coming. Vilnius is really important as we bring together our colleagues on the Eastern Partnership countries, 6 very different countries, different relationships, but very important to us. And heads of state and government will gather there the week after this one. So we'll be looking at the progress that we've made on that. And then finally, just to say, common security and defence issues, we have the defence ministers joining foreign ministers this afternoon to prepare for the European Council, which will be an important moment to reflect on our common security and defence, and for leaders to, if you like, give us their views, their thoughts, and even their instructions on how we take this forward into the future.
Magdi. Thank you. Representative, since you're talking about Egypt, did you receive an official invitation for observer the election? And last few days there were some killing to assassination to some of the Egyptian soldier and even policemen. Do you have any comment to say?
You know how much I hate any situation where loss of life is a result. And we have been clear to condemn that absolutely outright. The last few days have seen some interesting developments. We've seen the state of emergency changing, we've seen, of course, trials beginning, and we've seen the potential for perhaps some form of reconciliation. I'm hoping to receive the Deputy Prime Minister, as you know, very soon, and we'll have the chance to talk with him about what more we can do to support that. A mission I've just had in Cairo just returned, so I'm looking forward today to catching up with them. But we continue to stay very close to Egypt and to try and support the people of Egypt through this, at times, quite difficult transition.
Please, you are going to Geneva to participate in the Iranian talk. Do you think that there is any effects coming from these talks on the Syrian talks in Geneva, especially on Iran participating in this conference?
Well, the purpose of the talks I have with Iran are very, very clear. On behalf of the Security Council, my role is to lead negotiations, discussions to ensure confidence in the entirely peaceful nature of the Iranian nuclear program. That is the remit. Separately to that, there are discussions going on about getting what we've called Geneva II to actually happen. And again, I've said for 2 years, we need a peace process. We need a process by which we can help the people of Syria who've suffered so much in these last 2 years and are suffering incredibly at the moment, and winter is coming, to know that there is a peaceful way forward. And I pay tribute to John Kerry and Sergei Lavrov, who've tried to lead on this, but we've been entirely certain of the need to really get this moving, and I continue to press for that.
Anna.
Italy wants a naval operation in the Mediterranean to tackle the human traffickers in the light of the recent tragic events in Lampedusa. From your perspective, do you think this would be useful? Is it possible to see a naval operation in the Mediterranean?
Well, you know, we'll be talking about this as part of our discussions of the southern Mediterranean. I went to the Justice and Home Affairs Council recently. I said to my Italian colleagues that it must have been a terrible situation to find themselves in, of trying to deal with these poor people. The tragedy of people being trafficked is just awful. It's incredible to think that people fleeing what they fear should end up in the hands of criminals who can put them in unworthy boats, send them off to sea and care nothing about whether they live or die. Absolutely dreadful. So what we need to look at are two things. One is, how do we help people not need to leave? Most people want to stay at home, and they leave either because they feel there's a better life out there or because they feel they have no choice. So we need to work harder to try and deal with some of the underlying causes. And then secondly, how do we stop the traffickers? That if people get as far as being put in a situation like this, how do we stop them? And how do we try and deal with those who finally get to sea? So we'll be looking at that broad question with all member states when we talk about the southern neighbourhood. And I'll be asking Italian colleagues to lead with their thoughts and ideas.
And the Ukraine, what has the Ukraine to deliver so that you give the okay to the association?
Well, they know what they have to deliver, and they know that they have to finish and complete the work, the benchmarks that we've given them. There are some elements of that currently in the Parliament that they need to do, but they also need to deal with the issue of selective justice, and they know that that's going to be an extremely important issue. So today we'll take stock, and we look forward to Vilnius, and we look forward to seeing Ukraine there and to being able to, I hope, complete this part of the journey with them.
Thanks very much, everyone.
Tymoshenko.
Good morning. Just one question, please, about Syria. What can we expect today?
Well, of course, the unfolding tragedy of Syria is something that is always on the agenda of the Foreign Affairs Council. We're very concerned about the plight of people, especially as winter is coming. The number of internally displaced people, the number of refugees seeking shelter in other countries, and increasingly moving beyond their neighbour countries. We want to see a peace process. I've said for the last 2 years there has to be a way in which people sit down and find a solution to this that will bring a peaceful resolution to this conflict. And we'll continue to work as hard as we possibly can to do that. We call it Geneva 2 because the principles were laid out in Geneva 1. We need to get people back together as soon as possible. And I know that the Russians and the Americans are working on this, but I also will be urging my colleagues to do the same.
The
Thanks,
chemical
Abdallah.
weapons. Thank you very much.